Welcome to the Cabral Concept, where board-certified naturopath and integrative health practitioner Dr. Stephen Cabral shares how he was diagnosed at the age of 17 with a life-altering illness and given no hope for recovery. It was only after studying and traveling all over the world did he discover how to combine ancient Ayurvedic healing practices with state-of-the-art naturopathic and functional medicine to fully rebalance the body and re-energize it with life. It's time to discover how to get well, lose weight, and finally feel alive again. And now, here's your host, Dr. Stephen Cabral.
Welcome back, everyone. Great to be able to end the week strong with you on this Friday review. So much to go over here today. A lot of updates that I can't wait to bring you up to speed on. We'll do our recap of the week. I've got Michael Pollan's new book here that we're going to do a nice little honest and fair book review on. We'll talk about some water purification drops, as well as two research studies. One a fun one, basically just on how to pick the best watermelon in the world. We're going to give you a little tip on that from some inside farmers here, but also one on lab meat. You know, there's a lot of non-meat meat being produced out there, and I want to bring you up on some new research on that as well. So lots going on here today. Let's dive right into the show. So first things first, I just want to say it was a lot of fun me recording episode 2000 with my wife. And there's been so much great feedback now over the past week or so of that episode coming out. And it was a lot of fun. It really was. I know a lot of people would already asking for a round two for my wife coming back. And I'm sure we'll do that in the future. But what we typically do is like, you know, I kind of keep my work, and my family life. And although we live a healthy life and we follow all of the natural health based means as part of our just normal lifestyle, you know, I usually don't intertwine the two. You don't hear me talk a lot about necessarily my daughter's personal life, all that. But it doesn't mean that I don't love to be able to bring and share some of that as well. So I just wanted to thank you, basically saying it was a lot of fun, and we really do, both of us, appreciate all the support and feedback on that show. So thank you. If you didn't get a chance to tune in to episode 2000 yet, well, it's just stephencabral.com/2000, and you'll be able to check it out right there. Overall updates for the week. I mean, it was a wild last couple of weeks, so I don't have a lot for you, which is a good thing. We can kind of keep on rolling. But again, a lot of people as well taking advantage of that semi-annual sale over at Equal Life. So that was just great seeing all of your different social media-based posts. That was amazing. And also the feedback too. So actually, this is a little bit of a side, but I was on Mind Pump, the podcast, number one podcast in all of fitness. So I'm going to link that up, the episode. If you haven't heard that yet, that was one of the biggest episodes I've gotten in terms of feedback on another show. So you want to check that out. And the other one that's basically one-on-one with that show was Organic Olivia's podcasts. And I'm going to link that up for you as well. Organic Olivia, amazing human being, doing so much great work in terms of promoting health in her community and around the world. And also as an herbalist with all of her different herbal-based lines. So I love being able to connect with other people in the industry. The Mind Pump guys are fantastic. Olivia is amazing, and always a pleasure being able to chat with them. So I'm going to link those podcasts up. They're both very different. So if you didn't get a chance to listen to them yet, head on over to stephencabral.com/2009. That is where all of the different links from today's show are going to be. And before we get into the recap, what I'd like to do is just make sure that you know about one of my favorite go-tos, you probably saw it on Instagram, are the Equal Life organic whole food bars. I don't talk about them a lot. I don't talk about a whole lot of products all the time, but these are things that we use all the time in my family. So my daughters are allowed to have one a day. So they get one of those bars a day, which they love. Basically, everybody in my family, it's kind of strange. We all have different, like, number one flavors. My first favorite is Sunny Date. My wife loves the lemon ginger goodness. My other daughter loves the chocolate, and then my oldest daughter loves the apple cinnamon. So, yes, I keep all 4 packs there. My second favorite is the apple cinnamon, and so, but again, they're all great. It really just depends on taste, right? Taste is subjective. So check those out though, because you can literally get any flavor you want completely free right now, going on over at Equilife while supplies last. I know we sold out of the apple cinnamon at one point and maybe even the chocolate, but I'm pretty sure they are back in stock. So all qualifying purchases, $129. You can select your own box free. There's like a $24 value and you get to choose your flavor. So check it out right now over at equi.life. All right, recap this week. Hopefully you tuned in. Episode 2005 was the 3 steps to becoming healthy, wealthy, and wise. I love the title of that, of course, because it's a play off of Benjamin Franklin's proverb there. Basically, early to bed, early to rise, healthy, wealthy, and wise. So what I did was really, how do we break this down for like modern day and not make it just about waking up early, right, and going to bed early? So check that out. That was our Motivation and Mindset Monday, episode 2006, how fasting affects hormones. This one specifically, how it affects testosterone in both men and women. Definitely check that out because coming soon, there'll be one on how it affects estrogen, progesterone, and thyroid. All right, 2007 was how to eat healthy and organic for just $15 a day. So a lot of people say eating organic is too expensive. Eating healthy is too expensive. I don't disagree. It really can be. I mean, you can walk out of Whole Foods with 1 bag and spend $100. Like, there's no doubt about that. However, if you go in with a game plan, you can eat healthy and organic, not just healthy, but organic as well for $15 a day. I break it down per meal and I give you the shopping list. That was 2 days ago on episode 2007. Yesterday's Cabral Conversations with Cabral. Those are our interview-based shows. I like to say it more of a conversation. We had our own Equilife coach, health coach, Jessica Green, on the show. And I always say in her former life, she was a green building specialist. So if you're someone who's thinking about how do I get rid of this toxic home that I'm living in, or how do I repair or renovate or any of these things, or even build new, Jessica has a wealth of information. And she answered so many of my questions, which I was excited about because basically I was an interested party saying, hey, what about this? What about this? What about this? And she was able to answer all of those questions. So really great interview. Check that out. That was yesterday. I know the next couple of weeks we have coming up, we're actually taking a break from some of our interviews, but definitely check out yesterday's and then check out the Training Thursdays and some of the other ones coming up over the next couple of weeks. All right. So let's get into a few of today's product reviews. The first one was this. And again, remember, this show, a lot of people say that, but literally this show is for our community. Just like when we do one for IHP, it's for IHP. So when people ask me to review things, if I believe that it's something that most people would benefit from, I'm going to review it. And so someone asked me about the, I use a Berkey water filter. I've talked about that before. If you don't know what that is, head on over to stevencabral.com/resources because I've got about 150 different products over there, all different companies. And all of those are things that I use in my own life. My family uses them. I use them. And what I want to do is actually show you the water purification drops that I use. So someone mentioned the Berkey water drops. I'm gonna link those up. I'm gonna tell you exactly what they are in one moment. But then I also want to do the drops that I personally bought because I didn't even know Berkey made water filtration drops. All right, so as I'm pulling that up, here's what they are. So water purification drops, they allow you to store water for sometimes even up to 3 years or more with these drops. And what it does is it removes the bacteria from the water. So one of the reasons why this is really important is that you can't just store, a lot of people store water in case, well, let me give you a good example. I think I was talking about this, actually on Jessica's interview. In Maine, there was a big storm. Like there was literally, there's big snowstorms in the winter. It knocked down the power lines. There was no electricity to the house. All right, a lot of people are like, well, you can still get water. You can, you definitely can. But if anything, the electricity ever went out at one of the power plants or whatever it might be, or there was a brownout, which is like you lose electricity, electrical grid, and the water purification plants weren't allowed to run on generators. It's always possible that you don't have fresh drinking water. And that's something that, we all know that we need fresh drinking water on a daily basis. We can go a long time without food, but we can't go really more than a couple days without water. So a lot of people store big 5 gallons of water, 3 gallons of water, whatever they want, but you can't drink that water if you're not putting anything in it. So Berkey makes one that is a water purification biofilm drop. The biofilm means that it's removing the bacteria from the water. And if I'm able to find it as I'm searching through my Amazon orders, because that's where I got it from, and it's so crazy because you search your orders and I type in water, and of course I've got a million water things, but just what if I type in purification? Let's see if that comes up. If not, I'm not going to waste your time. I'm just going to link it up here today on episode 2009. All right, so I am going to link it up for you because I find a couple of the iodine purification, and then I've got another one that's just basically potable aqua, which is chlorine dioxide. And I'm going to see if that's the one. I don't believe that it is. I know that it's not. So I'm going to link it up today for you. But of course, chlorine is one way to purify water, and so is iodine. And the reason is that they will kill bacteria as well. And I know you're probably saying to yourself, well, we don't want to drink chlorine because chlorine's bad for our gut bacteria. It's bad for our thyroid. To that, I say you are 100% correct, and I'm glad you knew that. However, in emergency situations, like when I was in India and I didn't have drinkable water and I was worried about parasites, I would drop in some of the chlorine tablets. I would let it open up to the air, and I would actually let some of that chlorine gas vapor come out of the water over the next hour or so, and then I would cap it. So again, this is for emergency use only. I don't think that you'd want to be drinking this water, storing water in that way, but a lot of people have asked, and it's just not a bad idea, right? I mean, like, hopefully you never need it. Like, hopefully you never need canned food or you never need your own water, but it's one of those things you could say, probably a good idea to have. So what I'm going to do is link up the water canisters that I recommend, as well as the purification drops. That'll be the easiest thing. If that's of interest to you, that's over at episode 2009. All right. Next up is the Michael Pollan book. You might remember or know Michael Pollan's name. I think it's been maybe just a couple years since he's written a book. He's a prolific writer, and he wrote the book. So the first book that I read from Michael Pollan was a long time ago when it was called Omnivore's Dilemma. That was a great book. Really enjoyed reading it. It probably was 10 years ago. And so he's moved on from that type of writing. He wrote a book called Cooked. I thought it was fine. And he's written this new book called This Is Your Mind on Plants. Now, let me tell you something just about Michael Pollan that I enjoy. I enjoy his writing style. Like, people have a certain, Michael Pollan's a journalist, and people have a certain style of writing, and I actually enjoy reading how he puts words together. I've written a couple books now, but I'm not a professional writer, right? I'm a professional, basically, reader, studier, researcher, and then I speak the information to you. I write conversationally because that's also how I like to read, but Michael Pollan's a great storyteller. And so I wanted to read it just for that. But the book, it's interesting because when I read this, This Is Your Mind on Plants, I'm like, oh, this is going to be a book, and I kind of knew a little bit of background on all different types of psychedelics. So I'm always interested in learning more and new things. I thought there was going to be a chapter on LSD, a chapter on psilocybin, mushroom-based. I thought there would be a chapter on ayahuasca, a chapter on, DOAMT. I'm probably not DMT, but there's a part to that. So that's not my expertise, and I'm not claiming to be my expertise on that. I'll link that up for you as well. And then other types of psychedelics as well. But when I open the book, and I always like to obviously read the table of contents for what the book's to be about, it's essentially about caffeine and mescaline. And it was interesting that Michael Pollan chose those two. But as you start to read the book, you begin to understand how these two really spoke to him to a greater degree. And as a journalist and basically an investigative journalist, that's what he wanted to go deeper on. So it allowed him to go deeper because the book's about 250 pages. So he spent about spent about 80 pages on caffeine, which, by the way, if you want to learn the history of caffeine, what it's like to come off of caffeine, to go back on it, I really liked Michael Pollan's story on that. And then mescaline was a fine read for me. It's just not something that I'm as interested in. I'm definitely not against it, and I understand why a lot of people are doing ayahuasca ceremonies. I understand why they are doing peyote and mescaline and things like that. It's just maybe I was there like 10 years ago or 12 years ago, more interest. I don't think I would have had access to it then. But where I am right now is like, I've worked through a lot of the things that I had to work through in life, and I'm genuinely happy. Like, I'm genuinely in a good spot. It doesn't mean that I wouldn't necessarily be interested in trying something like that and expanding my mind, but it's just not really of interest to me at this moment. However, I know it is for many people, and I'm actually not against it whatsoever. And for something like psilocybin, and I've seen the clinical benefits, I've not for myself personally, but for many other people, I've seen the research for depression, for addictions, and I actually, for many people who are in a tough spot, I do recommend it. I really do. Of course, with a licensed practitioner or someone that can truly guide you through it as an expert. But I enjoyed this book. I especially enjoyed the part on caffeine. I'm someone who enjoys one coffee a day. I'd love to be able to drink more, but I don't, because my body can only take a certain amount of caffeine. And I'm okay with that. So enjoyed reading this book. And if you're interested in caffeine or mescaline to a greater degree, meaning like going in depth, you can check it out. And of course, I'm going to link it up at today's show notes at stephencabral.com/2009. All right, we're going to end with a fun, quote unquote, research one. But first, we're going to get into a more serious one, and that is on lab meat. You know, I'm not an advocate of lab meat. I've given you the actual breakdown before. I've gone through the Impossible Burger and the other Impossible Burger, whatever that one is called. So if you want to check that out, I'll link that up today as well. But what I wanted to share with you is this is new research. It literally just came out last month in early July out of Duke University. And what they did was they examined the nutritional content of plant-based meat alternatives. I want to be careful with that because a lot of times it's not coming from plants at all. It's coming from a laboratory. They're calling it plant-based, but it's not plant-based because it's not really from plants. They're making a lot of it up. Some of it is, but it's just not meat-based. So it's better to say non-meat, or it's technically better and more appropriate to say lab meat alternatives. Okay, so what did this analysis say? I'm just going to quote it for you because I don't need to be giving you my bias, because I'm not biased. I wouldn't say that. I go by the factual information, but I also run a natural health practice. And I know right now, this is not a healthy thing for people to be doing. People don't need to eat meat, but they shouldn't be eating synthetic lab-grown meat, in my opinion. Okay. And I know I'm going to take some heat for that. I don't know. I'm okay with it because it's something that I stand by because I stand for people's health. I don't have any stake in meat. I don't have any stake in eggs. I don't have any stake in lab-based meat. I don't have any investments in these things. It's not really up to me how those things go. But from a health perspective, I can tell you for sure, eating whole foods such as plant-based proteins like beans, legumes, dal, mung beans, etc., or some grass-fed beef, pasture-based chicken, wild-caught fish, pastured eggs, they're just going to be much healthier for you. And this study proves it out. So let's go over it right now. Let's see here. Several metabolites known to be important to human health were found either exclusively or in greater quantities in beef, including creatine, spermine, anserine, cysteamine, glucosamine, squalene, and omega-3 fatty acid DHA. These nutrients have potentially important physiological, anti-inflammatory, and/or immunomodulatory roles, the author said in the paper. These nutrients are important for our brain and other organs, including our muscles. But some people on vegan diets, no animal products, can live healthy lives. That's very clear. Besides, the plant-based meat alternative contains several beneficial metabolites not found in beef, such as phytosterols and phenols. It's important for consumers to understand that these products should not be viewed as nutritionally interchangeable, but that's not to say that it's not necessarily okay. Plant and animal foods can be complementary because they provide different nutrients. He said more research needs to be determined of the long-term benefits. Okay, so that was the nice part, and that's good. And because again, I like to read the other non-biased parts. So he's saying plant-based proteins, and I agree. Plant-based proteins can be totally fine for the human body. And I always say it's not for me to tell you what necessarily you should believe in or eat. However, what I'm saying is, if we're talking about a lab-based meat alternative, it is missing what you can't build in a lab that we don't even know of. Some, of course, we know, and I just stated it. Those are some missing nutrients. But what we can't build is how to actually create the apple and the specific enzymes that are built naturally into it and all the phytonutrients that you would only get, like let's say in a plant, from the sun itself or from the cow grazing and actually eating the grass that got the photosynthesis from the sun and up to the bacteria from the soil with all of those different nutrients. So again, it's not that I'm against supplements. I'm not at all. But these synthetic meats, I think we have to be careful of. Okay, that's all. And if you wholeheartedly believe in them and agree in it, then I'm okay with that. Again, I just like to present both sides whenever possible. Okay, and our last one of the day, like I said, is more of a fun one. And this one is specifically on how to choose the right watermelon. We're still in summer. People are enjoying watermelon. It's a great fruit. A lot of people are worried about the glycemic index, and they kind of go bananas over that because it's such a high glycemic index. But when you look at the glycemic load of watermelon, it's actually quite low. However, having said all of that, meaning like for hurting your blood sugar, right? It is a great energy-based food. So if you just finished a workout or you've been running around on the weekend, you're out in the hot sun, watermelons have lots of electrolytes and antioxidants and can be a fun summertime and even early fall treat. So how do you choose the best watermelon for you? Well, I'm going to go through this. This is an infographic actually by Harvest Time, and I'm going to go through it exactly as is. So if a watermelon is uniform in size and heavy, meaning like round, cylindrical, it's going to be sweet. If a watermelon is elongated, more oblong, it's going to be more watery, so more juicy. Not a bad thing, just different. If a watermelon that's round has a spot on the end, like a big spot on the top of it, that almost looks like Antarctica on a globe, and it's orange, that's going to mean that it's full of flavor. However, if that same big spot is white and not orange, it's not going to have a lot of flavor. Think of it almost like the rind, right? Now, if you have that smaller watermelon with a little bit of webbing, just a little bit, it kind of looks like a spider's web, it's going to be bland. However, if there's a lot of webbing and they look like little white squiggles through the dark green stripes on a watermelon, well, that's going to be much more sweet, like the round ones as well. If the watermelon is more dark, or it's even kind of uniformly more matte colored or dull, it's going to be quite ripe. So it's already very ripe. Remember, the duller the watermelon gets, the riper it is. Now, the shinier it is, the less ripe it is. So you don't want to eat the bright, shiny watermelons, right? But in a store, they might polish them with wax or whatever. But truly, if the skin is bright and shiny, not quite ripe yet. If the skin is more dull, you might be like, oh, that doesn't look like a very good watermelon, but it's actually quite ripe. So I'm going to post this infographic today at stephencabral.com/2009. That is where I'll link up the studies. I'll link up Michael Pollan's book. I'll link up the water purification drops. Everything that I mentioned on today's show will be linked up there. So thank you so much for tuning in. Have an amazing weekend. I'll be back tomorrow with our Cabral house calls. Take care, everyone. If you can believe it, it is already August, and that means in just about 3 weeks or so, the kids are headed back to school. We get back into a more normal-based routine, I guess you could call it. And with that, we need to make sure we're getting our eating on track and also feeding our kids good, healthy, nutritious meals. But in addition to the normal breakfast, lunch, and dinner, sometimes you need an easy go-to. And that's exactly why we created our organic whole food bars over at Equilife. These bars are the cleanest bars on the planet. Literally, you cannot put cleaner ingredients in a bar. Everything is organic or it's wild. You're looking at a very low-calorie snack bar in general, but it also has enough of that sweet in order for you to feel like your cravings been satisfied. It's great for kids. It's also nice to have a couple if you need it as a meal replacement. And right now, over at Equilife, you can get any flavor you'd like, a full box, completely free. That's around a $25 value, completely free right now. And again, you can choose from the sunny date, you can choose the lemon ginger goodness, the chocolate-based bar flavors, or the apple cinnamon. Literally, everyone has different tastes. They're all delicious. Choose your favorite one. Get a bunch if you're ordering with family and try them out. So that is the thing. I'm telling you right now, one of the most popular bars out there right now, the organic whole food bars. Select your favorite flavor on all qualifying orders over $129 over at Equilife right now. So pick up your favorite protocol, your lab test that you've been looking to do, anything else, stock up and get a free box on us, completely free right now while supplies last over at EQUI.life.